Hi guys, I will start lecturing today with leadership. As I announced on Milo, you need to check these separate PDF files because the leadership topic has not been widely discussed in your textbook. That's why I have uploaded a PDF file from the previous year's textbook where leadership and decision-making process is clearly and properly explained. You can understand and you can follow up this process, these concepts better in the PDF files rather than in your textbook. That's why follow up these files when you're asked any questions in assignment 3, not in assignment 3, sorry, but in your final exam, when you're asked any questions about leadership or decision-making processes, you're responsible for these files, not your textbook, for just only these two concepts and plus motivation, because motivation, leadership, and the decision-making processes are not well described in your textbook, okay? That's why I uploaded. Please read them, please upload them, download them and read carefully to understand the leadership theories, because leadership theories in international business management understanding the leadership theories and leadership models is very important, because if you don't understand the leadership theories, you cannot interpret the way of how leaders behave, or how leaders talk, or how leaders show them in the public. In order to understand their body language, their speech, and their behavior from a theoretical perspective, you need to understand first leadership models. That's why I put those pictures here. Like these people are world's most powerful political leaders. You like or not, doesn't matter. They have a special technique to talk in front of the public. When they are talking, you might follow how these people behave. They're not talking like a random person in the society. They're all well trained and well educated about leadership theories and how to become a good leader, how to gain more follower. That's why these people, we say, world's most powerful political leaders, because these people has a big audience just because not just because they are a leader, just because they are well trained and they are very well applying these models. We can see this when we are watching. We can understand how they are powerful when they are talking and how they are transmitting this feeling to the audience, to the followers. These characteristics makes them famous, makes them strong. When you look at the TV, when you see Putin in the TV, well, you can say, yes, he's talking very strongly, and even you can get impression that, although you're against him, you can get impression, yes, influence. You can get the influence from him because they are influencer in relation to their position. They influence people. You can feel it whether you agree or not. But through this way, through this persuasive behavior, through this high strong political leader characteristic or leadership traits they had, they impact societies. This is applied for these examples. And when we look at the companies, again we see people who are running these companies or who are in front of the media, in front of the audience. We see that these people, again, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, or I forgot his name. Anyway, Bill Gates. These people are showing very highly characteristic, very obvious characteristic of leadership, because they are trained. They need to be this way. For example, Mark Zuckerberg is always wearing black, or when he's talking, you can follow he's talking, he's showing some constant pattern. When he's talking, you can feel it, you can see it. Then he's gaining audience, he's gaining followers. I'm sure there are a lot of people outside in the IT business trying to be new Mark Zuckerberg or trying to find something new and to become like him. These characteristics, set of skills they develop by the help of others, made them effective leaders, made them very well-known persons in the world as a company leaders. There are a lot of other companies in the world, but we don't see everyone as an effective leader. We don't say them, or we don't know them, but we know these people because they are effective leaders. But let's see how we understand it and how can we improve our leadership, or how can we behave one day when you become a manager in a company, how we can behave, or should you change your behavior towards people in different environment or in different managerial stages. We will talk about it now because there is not only one very typical effective leadership model. There are various models. There are several models. Someone applying one of them very effectively, the other one is picking the other one and applying it very effectively. This depends working environment, the person and the followers, of course, and then the country, the culture. These are all determinants of the leadership. That's why we cannot say there's only one type. No, there are a lot of types, there are a lot of models. I got some of them here, but there are more models in the world or in the literature that we can follow up. But today I got some of them here. I believe 10 or more leadership types I will talk about today. And my suggestion for you, at least know a couple of them very well. Because if you know some leadership models, you can apply in your life as well. And you can follow the people, how they're behaving. Because you will see in your business environment, some people, some leaders are so persuasive, like they are so dictating. This is one of the type. And you will see some of them are very supportive. This is another type. And there are more types that we will talk about. But as I said, there's not any type, there's no type which is the best. But there are lots of types which can be applied to every different situation, circumstances. Let's first identify who are the leaders, we can call a leader. Leaders are individuals who significantly affect the thoughts and behaviors of others through persuasion and influence. That's why I say this politicians and these guys, these CEOs, influencer at the same time, because they are influencing other people. When a kid or when a teenager watching these guys, this CEO, they can say, yeah, I want to be CEO one day, because they are getting impact from these people. These people have a huge ability to impact others, to persuade others to follow them. And leadership is different from management. We can't think that leadership is under the management system, like how we are interpreting the management. As we've interpreted the management, we need to interpret leadership as well. Because one management system cannot be successful without a good leader. Every management system or in every organization system, we need to see leaders. We need to see some leaders. Otherwise, the followers cannot believe in the project. They cannot follow up. They can lose their loyalty. They can lose their faith in that project. That's why we need a leader. And management consists of planning, organizing, leading, controlling a group or organization. Managing resources and scheduling is a major part of managing. As I said, leadership is part of management. And leadership involves influencing, motivating, and assisting followers to desired level of performance. Because what we say in the first lecture, what I say in the review video, every company wants to increase their performance. Every company wants to get more profit. This is the aim. But we are not a machine. Every person has a feeling, has emotional state. stage. That's why leadership has critical importance here, because leaders can motivate a person or group of people. When he see that this group of people's motivation gets down, he can use the person can use his or her leadership skills to increase the performance, therefore to increase the profit, to increase the organization management efficiency, and so on. That's why leadership is very important. That's why we need to understand the leadership theories and behind the scene, what's happening what's happened at the background of this management system, especially for leadership. And leadership involves the ability to inspire the thinking, attitudes, and actions of a variety of individuals and the cultures. What we say, to increase the performance, a leader should be able to inspire other person's thinking, or a leader should be a person who can trigger the other person, who can push the other person and push them to think more, produce more, work more, but not by force. Leadership, that's why it's a key. They are not using a force. They are trying to inspire by ability. And leaders must also deliver positive outcomes. That's important. Individuals may disagree on whether an outcome is positive, but the results must be viewed as positive by at least some in the organization or its broader stakeholders in order for a person to be considered a leader. This part is important. Why? Leader must deliver positive outcomes. A leader should not push a person to get down or to demotivate. Leaders, whatever they do, whatever they say, should get a positive outcome. They cannot they cannot orient a person to decrease their motivation or lose their faith in a project. That's why it's important to understand leaders, even they do negative feedback, eventually their feedback should encourage the person to get positive outcome. Otherwise, the person is losing the faith and could not increase the performance, then we cannot say the manager or the person is a leader. We can start questioning it, because leaders should not lead a group to have negative outcomes. We are always expecting positive outcomes from leaders. That's why we call them leader. Okay? We have 4 theories. These are the main titles, main headlines. We have some sub-theories under these theories. But we will start from the basic one, trait theories, behavioral, the second one, contingency, and new views. If you ask me, the most important ones here, behavioral and contingency theories, because these are more developed and more flexible theories that we can apply to different cultures and to different working environments and to different circumstances. But we will talk about 4 of them. What we say, the greatest leaders I know are followers. Leaders starts their journey from being follower. That's why we need to be a good follower, then we can be a good leader. What I'm trying to say here also, a leader is a person understands both situations. He can think from both angles, like as a leader and as a follower. Otherwise, if you are thinking a leader is just sitting in a table and giving the orders, dictating people, no, this is not such a good leader, because this kind of behavior not always resulting positive. This kind of leadership can result in negative. What we say in the beginning, leadership should lead to positive outcomes. That's why we will talk about these 4 theories, considering all the time positive outcome. Because leaders wants to be successful. Leaders wants to inspire, motivate, and so on, the group of people. Okay? And the first one, trait theory. This states that people have underlying traits or characteristics that lead to either superior leader or follower performance. What it says in this theory, you are born with it. You have this characteristic. Okay, some of them can be developed, but majorly you have it from the beginning. And this model includes leader's knowledge, natural and learned abilities. This is natural ones born. You are born with this ability. Like some people having like a natural speech talent, or some people can use their body language naturally, or naturally very nice. I mean, they are using their body language without any. They are using their body language effectively without having a substantial training. They know it from the beginning. And values and personality traits. We have list of dynamics or list of determinants under traits theory, traits model. First, we say charisma. This is like a naturally gifted leader. A leader having charisma. I mean, leader born with this. They have it naturally. And dominance. An individual need to exert influence and control over others. Helps a leader channel followers. Helps a leader channel followers' efforts and abilities toward achieving group and organizational goals. What I'm trying to say here, I'm trying to say a leader has a dominance characteristic, and the person, he or she, is able to convince the follower to go with him in the same pathway. Again, this comes naturally. And self-confidence. You see some people very self-confident and they talk, they don't have any suspicions about their speech. They are full self-confident. They believe in themselves regardless what they say. Self-confidence helps a leader influence followers and persist in the face of obstacles and difficulties. Yes, these people, self-confident people, when they see any difficulties or obstacles, they don't lose their self-confidence. They keep it. And they try to solve the difficulties, or they try to manage the difficulties professionally. And energy activity levels. You might see some people, some person is having very low energy, and whatever happens, he or she is not showing any sign of full energy or high level of attractiveness, high level of happiness or something. He or she doesn't show it. You don't see some person every time very, very active. But you can see some other person full of energy all the time. Even for little chat in the street, you see that person talking very energy, talking with a high level of activity. These people are naturally talented in relation to activity energy levels. They are having full energy. And when these people are having full energy, when you have a naturally given high energy, this might help a leader deal with many demands he or she faces on a day-to-day basis. These people are naturally talented to deal with the problems with, I can say, positive approach, or we can say full of energy. They don't get tired easily. They don't say, it's enough. No, they say, okay, we can solve it, because they feel inside they're having full energy to solve the daily problems. They don't mind. Tolerance for stress. That's another important characteristic under this first trait theory. This helps a leader deal with the uncertainty inherent in any leadership role. Tolerance for stress is important. You will see some people are getting very quick. They're getting panic for unexpected things, or they can get stressed when they get a lot of workload. But some people are very relaxed and they say, okay, we can solve it. And they are controlling their stress level professionally, because you cannot see a leader like getting panic or crying just because the person is having a lot of workload. No, leader don't do this. If you accept a person as a leader, you should see some sign of controlling their stress or keeping their self-confidence high, energy level high. You should follow these signs. Otherwise, you can lose your belief in their leadership. You can lose your trust. And internal locus of control. This helps the leader take responsibility for an endeavor's success and not blame outside factors for failure. This is also related to being mature, because you will see even some adult, but immature adults, they blame outside factors for their failure. But leaders don't do this. Leaders accept it. Leaders say, yes, this happened just because of this reason, but I know the reasons. I will overcome this. This is internal locus of control. And the other one, integrity and honesty. This ensures that a leader behaves ethically and is worthy of followers' trust and confidence. You cannot see a leader is not honest. Maybe they are not honest, but in the public or in the group of people, they should show that they were honest. Otherwise, they can lose the followers. And emotional intelligence. This ensures that a leader is not overly self-centered, has a steady disposition, and can accept criticism. This is important as well, because leaders can have very high ego. This can eventually damage their leadership. That's why you should be able to control emotional intelligence. You should not say, I'm a leader, I'm very self-confident, and blah blah, and then try to press other people. No, you cannot do this. You show your behavior. Let the society understand your leadership, feel your leadership. You don't have to say this. Okay? And we say that charisma is the ability to inspire, influence others, and charismatic leadership that combines learned skills with the ability to transform an organization in new and substantive ways is called transformational leadership. What we say in the beginning, these characteristics can come naturally, and plus these people, if they learn some skills on the top of this skill, this naturally born characteristic, we can call these people transformational leadership. These people has different benefits in the society or in the work group. We will talk about it. And charismatic leaders can transform organization by defining the need for change, creating new vision, and mobilizing commitment to this vision. Because these leaders, charismatic leaders, can create a group of audience, group of people easily, because they have a natural talent, natural skill. And getting followers to transcend their own self-interest and focus on the needs of their colleagues and the organization is called employee engagement. Okay, and let's move on. Charismatic leadership has a positive effect both in terms of organizational performance and on follower satisfaction, organizational and team commitment, and organizational identification. What I'm trying to say, if a person is naturally talented and also gets some skill, learn some skill, yes, this has a positive impact in the organization. Because what we say, leader is a person who is trying to get a positive outcome. They are not focusing on ego side, they are not focusing on negative side. Then we can say, yes, organization can benefit from that person. And again, transformational leadership is one type of leadership associated with charisma, but I will talk about transformation and transactional leadership now. Okay, transformational, in other words, we call them charismatic leaders. Charismatic leadership is traditionally contrasted with transactional leadership. But what is transactional leaders? This is one who recognizes follower needs and tries to ensure that the organization satisfies those needs if employee performance goals warranted. And this is some attributes associated with transformational leadership. They are motivator, foresight, encouraging, communicative, positive. Let's move on. Let's compare transformation and transaction, because you can check this one later on. What is this determinants of transformational leadership. But let's compare transformation and transactional leaders. Transactional leaders mostly use their extrinsic motivators very effectively. What is this? For example, such a leader exchanges rewards for appropriate levels of effort and responds to employees' self-interest as long as they are getting the job done. What it says here in this paragraph, it is saying that this leader is focusing on task, not the person. What it says, task comes first. If a staff employee achieve the goal, achieve the task, then they can get a reward. This is linked. And transactional leadership also seeks to acquire more followers through the exchange processes. What is it? This leader, transactional leaders, try to use the rewards by putting like a target goal in front of the followers. And every followers, as they accomplish the task, they will get reward. It's like a win-win game. Some have argued that transactional leadership is the best approach is dealing with followers in emerging economies, where people are poorer and like to be motivated by what Marshall would refer to as lower order material needs such as money and housing. And the other model, when we look at this, that's why we say they contrast each other. In transactional, we can say it's a bit traditional model. Nowadays, it's a bit hard to keep people under this leadership model because transactional is a bit, okay, you do this, you achieve this, and then you will get your bonus. Otherwise, no bonus. This is a bit traditional and win-win game. I accept this, but nowadays, human being welfare and mental health is much more important, and people don't want to treat it like a with the reward and against success. No, sometimes we can be unsuccessful. We are, as I said, we're not such a machine, and not every individual should be all the time successful. There are some flexible times or there are some times that we are demotivated by another reason in our life. That's why success is not always the meaning of. Being unsuccessful is not the thing that we can say the task is not accomplished. Task may be accomplished, but maybe with a bit lower performance. But it doesn't show that that person is fully unsuccessful. And transformational leadership occurs when a leader transforms his or her followers in ways that result in followers trusting the leader, performing behaviors that contribute to the achievement of organizational goals, and being motivated to perform at higher level. In transformational, you see it's a bit broader approach, what we say organizational goals, rather than personal task or personal achievement. We are more talking about organizational goals and being motivated, because as a leader, you can see that if there's not enough motivation, a person might lose the concentration. They might, for any reason, any reason can impact the performance at work. But leaders should be able to follow it. Leaders should be a motivator and supportive. That's why transaction and transformation are a bit different than each other. They contrast each other. As I say here, transformation leader encouraging, communicative. Like if a leader is seeing that you are not able to catch the deadline of a project, or you are not able to be successful in one specific project, they should communicate with you. They should ask you what happened. Maybe extending the project time, maybe supporting you. Maybe you don't know the solution. Maybe you stuck some point. That's why leader should be able to see this and foresee what can happen in a short term. Okay, and the second one, behavioral theories of leadership. In trait theory, you understand the basic of leadership theories. Behavioral and the contingency theory was a bit more advanced model. In this model, it states that specific learned behaviors can differentiate leaders from non-leaders or successful leaders from unsuccessful leaders. And these behaviors can be learned. You see the differences here? Learned. We say this is not naturally given. You can learn it. Unlike the trait theories of leadership, which imply that leaders need to be identified and perhaps nurtured, behavior theories assume that effective leadership behaviors can be identified and taught to prospective leaders. What it says, whatever your background, whatever you are naturally talented or not, doesn't matter. You are charismatic leader or not, doesn't matter. You can learn it. You can work hard. You can practice hard. You can train yourself, and then you can learn it. You can then learn how to talk. You can learn how to control your temper, self-confident, and your speech. You can learn everything by training, by trying. And then, yes, you can become a leader, good leader maybe. Maybe not the best leader, can happen, but a good leader. Or let's say, successful leader. And we have two main theories under behavioral theories. Two studies. When I say behavioral theories, Ohio State, Michigan studies, or leadership grid, you will remember, you will understand. These two theories are so close to each other. But their calculation and evaluation system are a bit different. Let's see. Ohio State, Michigan study. What this study says? There are two dimensions of leader behavior. They stated. What I say in the beginning in the trait theories, transactional and transformational leaders. What I say, one of them is more task-oriented, the other is more people-oriented. In this study, it identified. It says distinctly, yes, there's task-oriented leadership and people-oriented leadership. Task-oriented. What they say, work, work, work. This is the simple explanation of task-oriented leaders. They are assigning employees a specific task, clarifying their work duties and procedures, ensuring that they follow company rules, pushing them to reach their performance capacity. What you see here, this is all focused on task. You should be able to you should be able to follow up all the company rules, duties, and you should try to reach your maximum performance capacity. This is task-oriented behavior. Let's look at the people-oriented behavior. Showing mutual trust and respect for subordinates, seeking to meet employee needs to build relationship and loyalty to the company, identifying employee well-being to reduce turnover. What is it focused? People. Because they are trying to reduce turnover, which is the biggest sign of the leadership behavior. What they're trying to do, they are trying to keep employee happy and within the company as a loyal staff. And when we look at these two approach, under this Ohio, Michigan study, what you see, one focusing on task, the other focusing on people. And many studies show that most effective leaders exhibit high level of both types of behavior, irrespective of given situation. It doesn't matter the situation. A leader, a good leader, should be in between this. We cannot say a leader just focusing on a person, employee, staff, people is the successful one. Or we cannot say a person is just focusing on task is a successful one. No. A good leader combines these both. A good leader knows that a project should finish on time by the help of employees who are well motivated and supported. That's the important summary of leadership. And the other one, leadership grid. Again, this is depending on production and people. Concern for production and concern for people. This is essentially, basically, referring to the same logic as task and people, but it has a different system to evaluate it. A similar behavioral leadership theory that followed was the leadership grid with categories based on a 9 by 9 matrix. This grid identifies various types of leadership behavior based on 2 independent dimensions. And it gives ratings here, but before that, the ratings for leaders on both dimensions range from 1 to 9, with 9 being the highest on both dimensions, which is task and relationship. And leaders were named according to their ratings on the leadership grid. For example, the ideal leader was seen to be 9 and 9 leader, someone who is the highest on both concern for production and concern for people. But it doesn't apply to every industry. Let's see. This is our chart. What we see here, 1 to 9, country club management. 9 is concern for people, 1 is concern for production. In this model, the production, the task is not very well concerned or taken into consideration. It says thoughtful attention to needs of people for satisfying relationship leads to a comfortable, friendly organizational atmosphere and work tempo. Probably in country club management, the workers are very happy, employees are very happy, they are highly loyal, but we are not sure how the work is done. Team management, 9 to 9. Work accomplishment is from a committed workforce. Interdependence through a common stake in organization goals leads to relationship of trust and respect. This is the the highest end. 1 to 1 is there is no management, there is no production. You can see that impoverished management, we call it. Exertion of minimum effort to get required work done is appropriate to sustain organization. 5 to 5, it's in balance. Organization, we call it management. It's adequate organization performance is possible through balancing necessity to produce work with maintaining morale of employees and at a satisfactory level. 9 to 1 is on the opposite of 1 to 9. In 9 to 1, the major concern is production. People, less, it's just 1. And efficiency on operation results from ranging from such that human relations interfere to minimal degree. Organization goals are paramount. This grid shows us this 9 to 9, 9 to 1, or 1 to 9, whichever. They're all working at some places. We cannot say 9 to 1 is horrible, let's forget it. No, that's not. It's mostly it's working in the army, military. And we will talk about where they work best. And let's say 99 leaders, what we say they're having highest concern for people, highest concern for production. This group is seen as being flexible with the ability to get a great deal of effort from followers who maximize their effort for him or her. Because why? Because in this model, the leader is concerned for people. All of this while the leader works hard to meet the workers' needs. 99 leaders are thought to be responsive to change and innovative, which shows us in this model leaders should be very flexible and innovative. If a leader is not innovative, which can happen, doesn't fit in this model, doesn't fit in this team management model. A leader 1 to 1, where we say they don't have highest interest for production of people, who is considered to have impoverished leadership, management abilities. They don't have abilities. This type of leaders exert minimum effort and gets minimum output from workers and has little concern for workers' needs. They don't care. In this environment, managers will often find ways to minimize their work and will punish those who try to do extra for creating more works for others. They don't want it. They don't want to produce. It happens. And familiar to most the 9 to 1 or authority obedience relationship style, this leadership style stresses efficiency in operation and certain specified rules, and it offers no room for creativity. That's what we say military. This is a very classical example. It works there very well. In this leadership, there's no room for individualism. We are talking about 9 to 1 again. Creativity or personal concern for the employees, they are soldiers, beyond what the system has built into it. There's a rule, there are rules, follow it. Don't try to change it, because there's no room for it. And managers in more traditional organizations in developing countries are thought to fit this leadership profile, which is more likely to work best with difficult situations in which strict discipline is required and followers are not yet experienced enough to make decisions about their work. We can give example for the last determinant, like a communist government. Mostly workers, they don't have a right to change anything. They don't have, I can say, communist and dictatorship. Dictatorship, you can follow it very well. You can observe it much clearly. In dictatorship, you will see that the worker has no right to change anything. They just simply follow the rules. If they want, they are in production facility, okay, they should follow the rules what is given. They cannot change anything in the production line. This kind of 9 to 1 fits there. And there are some international perspective on behavior theories. There is evidence that different cultures will find different positions onto the leadership grid to be most effective. Like high power distance cultures may be more open to the 9-1 form of leadership and less likely to question the order's authority of leader. In many Asian settings, such as China, this type of leadership is common. Culture can attribute all theories. Culture has very great relationship with leadership theories. I will talk at the end of the slides, but you can see the impact of culture in every stage of leadership theories. That's why I said in the beginning, a leader can be able to change their style, his or her style, based on the circumstances. And leadership style 5 to 5 is commonly referred to as organization management. This is like adequate organization performance is possible through balancing the necessity to produce while maintaining moral and satisfactory level. What is a satisfactory level? It's not the highest level. And Japanese leadership in average domestic firms is often associated with the style of leadership in which organization man loyalty is prized and promotion is still based on seniority. And the other third theory, I will go a little bit quick because we have a lot of theories here. Contingency theory. This evidence, in this model, recent evidence suggests that leaders must adjust their management style to best handle different situations and to meet employee needs. As I said in the beginning, there is no one best style. Contingency theory is focusing on this part, focusing on this facet of the models and trying to get examples from the realities, getting more close to real management. And a theory in which the type of leadership needed is based on the situation being faced. Again, we have two fundamental types, task orientation and relationship orientation. In behavior theory, you have seen this task and people. And also in the last one, you see in this, the grid, leadership grid, you have seen task and relationship. Same you see here in contingency, task orientation and relationship orientation. They are the same thing. But interpretation is different. We have 4 models under the contingency theory. Field-less contingency, Hershey-Blanchard situational theory, path goal, Vroom-Yetton. Let's start. Field-less contingency theory. What he argued? He argued that there are 2 fundamental types of leadership: task orientation, relationship orientation. This is, as I said, similar to the Ohio State, Michigan, and leadership grid models. This is the same. But the evaluation is different. Relationship-oriented leaders want to be liked by their subordinates and to get along with them. What they focused on relationship, and they are expecting appreciation from followers. They're expecting being liked by the followers, and they are referred to as high LPC leaders. What is LPC? Least preferred co-worker. In this model, if a leader is relationship oriented, we call him or her high LPC leader. And this is positive, in relatively positive terms we are calling it. And the other one, task-oriented leaders that want their subordinates to perform at high level and accomplish their assigned goals. Here, again, what is the first thing? Priority is what it is, task, rather than relationship. That's why we call these people, that's why we call these leaders, low LPC. We can say army or military can be one of the example here because they are paying more attention on task. Their relationship concern is one. That's why low LPC fits that industry. High LPC leaders are most effective in situations that are moderately favorable for leading. That is, when a situation is not too ambiguous, people basically know what to do, but there is some degree of flexibility for leaders and followers. In this environment, high LPC leaders environments, people can take responsibilities. Employees know what they should do. They are not required to get orders from their leader for every occasions. That's why their leadership environment is a bit flexible, and they focused on relationship because task is more or less done by the people. In contrast, low LPC leaders are most effective in situations that are very favorable or very unfavorable for leading, such as unfavorable mechanistic or military extreme environments they are witnessing. Yet these people are more focusing on their job, their situation, task. That's why they have low LPC. Low LPC doesn't imply that leaders should have no concern for employees, but they cannot worry too much about being liked by employees. Instead, the key is to command people respect and be sure that workers carry out their duties. In every model here, even in task-oriented or people-oriented, it's stated here, they are not giving zero importance on task when they are people-oriented. Yes, they are paying attention on task, but their priority is here, people and relationship, or vice versa. And some comment on this contingency theory. Leaders from different cultures may vary in the assumption they make about how to lead. While deciding the leadership style, managers must consider both the culture in which they are working and the nature of work environment in which the firm is located. This too applies to every theory. Whatever a manager or leader decides, they should consider first the working environment, nature, the culture, and geography. Field's contingency theory of leadership reminds us that it's inappropriate to think there is a single best leadership style. At certain times, the leader may need to be more autocratic, at other times less directive. It can change. It depends on the situation, depends on the task. An employee's behavior will affect the type of leadership style needed in a given situation. For example, let's say employee, you are working a group of people, new people, just employed, and you are expecting these people a bit don't know what to do for the job because they are new. That's why you can be at this point a bit more autocratic and giving more orders. And after some time, after this group of people learn what they should do and how they behave, you can be less directive. You can change your style. A leader should understand these processes. Fearless works encourage managers to consider not only the culture in which they are working, but also the nature of the work environment in which the firm is located. Like, for example, for some businesses, like let's say if they are producing very dangerous product like oil, yes, they have to be autocratic because the work is very serious. Any simple mistake can cause a group of people to die. This is a very risky job. That's why leadership styles can change based on the nature of the work environment. And the other one, under contingency theory, Hershey-Blanchard situational leadership theory. This states that effective leaders must vary their style of leadership based on the employee's level of maturity. An employee's maturity is determined by job maturity, which is job experience, and psychological maturity. This is very important. Employee self-confidence and ability to accept responsibility. You will see in a working environment, some people somehow don't want to get responsible, don't want to take action alone. That's why these people never wants to be a manager. They always want to work under some management systems. That's why in this theory, a leader should see that employees less self-confident and less ability, or they should understand the employee is less tend to get action alone, and then they should develop their leadership model based on employee status. And the 4 levels of employee maturity are, what are these? How do we understand the employee is mature or not? They take responsibility or not? Telling employees what to do. I mean, we understand how the maturity level, but how we classify it, sorry. Telling employees what to do and how to do. This is the lowest level. If we are telling an employee the job, what they should do and how they should do, this is the lowest level of maturity. As a leader, you should understand, yes, I'm facing with a group of people which is located in lowest level of maturity. And selling ideas to the employees, this is the second level. And the third level, participating with the employees. And the fourth one, delegating to employees, highest level. And the willingness and ability, which is readiness of an employee to do a particular task, is an important situational factor. As I said, not everyone is ready to move from lowest level to highest level, delegating to employees. Not everyone wants this. That's why you should understand as a leader which one wants this, which one doesn't want, then you can manage them. And some critics, some perspectives on Hershey-Blanchard theory. And in this theory, we are classifying, in summary, we are classifying the maturity of employee like lowest level or highest level, and then we are developing the leadership. Managers moving from a low power distance country to a high power distance country have to alter their style to fit that new environment. What it says here, low power distance country, a leader should obviously will behave differently in a higher power distance country. And which employees in high power countries would expect their bosses to be directive and formal, authoritative we can say, but would prefer mentoring as they mature. What we say in the beginning, they start from low to high. I don't say every employee, every group of people can stuck in lower level of maturity. They can improve. A leader should see this and then alter the behavior, the style. And path goal theory, what this says us, proposes that the most successful leaders are those who increase subordinate motivation by charting out and clarifying the path to high performance, which is based on the expectancy theory of motivation. We will talk about this expectancy theory in the motivation section. And the 4 different leadership styles we have here under the path goal theory. What are these? Achievement-oriented, participative, supportive, and directive. We have 4 styles of leadership. Achievement-oriented. This one, challenging goals in this type, challenging goals are set and high performance encouraged. The leader is setting the goals in the beginning for the employees. Let's say if we are talking about like a sales team, a manager, a leader can say that this year your sales will be double. That's the limit. I mean, that's the goal. That's the achievement oriented. And participative leadership. Decision making is based on group consultation with information shared in the group. You will see some leaders, they're making their decision, but they're asking questions to the group. This type of leadership says, what they ask, what do you think? What is your idea on this particular solution? Do you have any contribution? That's the participative leadership. And supportive leadership, good relations are maintained with the group and sensitivity to subordinate needs. In this one, they're trying to understand the group needs and sensitivity, what they think. They're trying to have a better relationship through the communication. This is supportive. And directive leadership is specific advice is given to the group and ground rules are established. This is a bit autocratic because again leaders gives advices. They are not sitting and watching the people, but very specific and very direct. Then, for example, one project stuck at some point, a leader comes, they say, okay, you stuck here and this is the solution. That's very, not solution or maybe advice, sorry. This is the advice, you can solve this problem with this way. And again, ground rules know, and the group knows how to move after this advice. This is directive. And what is the perspective, international perspective on this model? Achievement-oriented leadership is appropriate, suitable when the employee is not challenged, tends to be mature and knows his or her job very well. This is for achievement-oriented leadership style. What it says, there is not employee not dealing with very challenge project. If you are saying that the sales will be doubled, there should be no crisis in the market. If there's a crisis in the market, if there's an additional challenge in the market, this is a dream to expect sales increase. And directive leadership style is more suitable when the follower has an ambiguous job, it's an unclear job, or may not be ready to work independently. In this model, in this directive leadership model, if the group is so new and not very capable of completing a project, yes, directive leader can come, give advice, be clear, and then the group can be successful. And participatory leadership is better suitable when the employee is using improper procedures or is making poor decisions, needs help to uncover these problems. And participative leader can guide here, can show where is the problem. And supportive leadership is appropriate when the employees lack self-confidence, have gone through a difficult time at work, and leader can support this person. And the fourth one in contingency theory, Vroom-Yetun theory. This focuses on how leaders make business decisions, which is applied using a decision tree. We have 5 different ways. The first one, autocratic way, model 1. Problem is solved using information already available. In this leadership model, yes, they face some problems, and then leader checks the previous problems and the decision made, what decision made for problems, and then using this available information. And the second stage, second way, and additional information is obtained from group before leader makes decision. In this one, yes, again the problem is there, existing, the solution is known, available solution, but group decision is taken. The leader is asking the group and considering them before decision. And the other 3, within these 5 ways, the other third one, consultative one, leader discusses problems with subordinates individually before making a decision. In this part, in this way, it's not a group discussion or group questioning, this is individual. You can say your own idea for the specific case individually, maybe your idea is highly confidential, or maybe your information highly confidential. In this kind of cases, consultative one works there. And consultative 2, problem is discussed with the group before a decision is made. What is the difference here? In the autocratic 2, in this one, the leader gets the decisions and get the solutions and made the decision alone. Consultative 2, they all together discuss problem and the solution. And group 2, group makes decision about a problem with leaders simply acting as jail. In this group 2, leader is like observer, watching it and then where possible inter, but mostly group makes the decision. These are the ways how you can manage the leadership. There are 5 ways. An international perspective on the Würm-Yetton theory. The theory is useful in universalistic societies like multinational societies or multinational companies that have a predilection to low hierarchy and power distance. Like in an environment, people share the decisions freely. They don't feel shy, or they don't show any. They tend to show self-confidence. It may be less useful in a society that are higher in power distance and more formal, hierarchical, particularistic. Like, for example, in an environment that employee comes from a high power distance country, and probably that employee will not say what he or she thinks in a group. That's why this model is not the highly effective model in this group. New views on international leadership. What are these? There are some new views. But don't forget, the more theoretical parts is in 3 of them, like a trade theory, behavioral, and contingency. They are solid theories. Some people worked on it, some people run these studies, and this study is well known in the world. New views are a bit interpretation. Like, for example, one of them, coercive leadership. This style works well in higher distance culture, as they are more likely to believe that leaders should act in this way. And the other one, authoritative leadership, works well in a high power distance situation with strong group relationship. This is kind of interpretation one by one, like based on high distance or low distance. And affiliative leadership is more likely to be successful where there are low levels of power distance and more focus on individuality. Also in new views, we more or less see that the model leadership types linked to the situations. And democratic leadership is associated with lower power distance and a strong emphasis on individuality. And pace-setting leaders are preferred in cultures that are very high in masculinity, and these do not work well in a high quality of life cultures. And the other one, the coaching style, is most effective when people on the receiving end are supportive of its use, and it's more supportive style. And new views on international leadership is, as I say, it's more or less definition and linked to the theories, but it's a bit like a summary. But what you should focus on more, trade theories, which is the basic one, behavioral and contingency. They're most essential and theoretical ones. And let's talk a bit about the culture and connecting leadership. This topic is quite long, but as a summary, let's have a brief look. Power distance and leadership. Participatory leadership is not suitable for all cultures. Employees in high power distance cultures expect the manager to act as a strong leader and become uncomfortable with leaders delegating decisions. This is all about, it's not matching leadership. If a group of people waiting to get orders from the leader, and if order doesn't come, and then leader is asking the opinion of the group, and group will feel less comfortable. They will feel like losing the faith in leaders. They will feel annoyed. That's why for a leader it's good to understand the cultural background. That's why it is important to understand host cultural dimensions, to understand the group of people. But there are always exceptions. There are always changes in the society, because society is very dynamic and leadership models are very dynamic as the culture is dynamic. That's why don't think, yes, this model can apply like high power distance countries, but when you go to high power distance countries, you might see that country is not following high power distance culture anymore. Maybe a little bit flexed, it gets down to the low power distance. That's why leaders should be able to watch it, observe it, and interpret it again. within the dynamic structure. And in a culture that endorses a more authoritarian style, leader sensitivity might be interpreted as being weak. The important point here, as a leader, choosing the best style and influencing the followers is the crucial idea in leadership theories, in leadership modeling. As it says here, leader can be interpreted as a weak if the style doesn't match with the culture. And in order to avoid this, a leader should read the culture and environment, working environment, very well. And in cultures endorsing a more nurturing style, leader sensitivity is likely to prove essential for effective leadership. Lower power distance societies prefer their leaders to empower and encourage employee participation in decision making. As I give the example in higher distance culture, in a lower power distance societies, the employee might expect to be involved in the decision making process or involved in the management process more or less. If they are not, they might feel very excluded from that company. They might feel they're not part of this company. And uncertainty avoidance and leadership. Leaders in high uncertainty avoidance culture are more directed and rely on roles to help guide their decision making. This is not expected in low uncertainty avoidance culture. And individualism. A high degree of individualism implies that leaders must follow employees to make decisions about must allow employees to make decisions about their work. Why? Because in the individualistic environment, they are able to take their responsibility on one project. They are able to make a decision. They want to have some room in this, and leadership can see this. And masculinity, from aspect of masculinity and leadership. Countries high in masculinity will place emphasis on male leadership. This is important. They might not feel respect to female leaders. And production along the lines of the 9-1 leader. What is that 9-1 leader? Paying attention on production rather than a relationship. Countries lower on masculinity scale could have female leaders place more value on relations and quality of life in the company. And this is the last one. Potential conflicts can arise when actions are not consistent with the culture. In all the chapters and the modules, I say, understanding culture is the basic of international business management. In every phase of international business management, you will feel the culture, the role of culture. In all cultures, a leader must build trust with followers, have a high degree of integrity, and must be perceived as treating everyone fairly. What we say in the beginning, being fair, honest, is important. Otherwise, a leader can lose follower, which is not a very favorable result for a leader. Okay? If you have any question, you can ask anytime about this leadership theories. It's a bit not complicated, it's a bit math, like a lot of theories there that you should understand and interpret by yourself. But if you don't understand any concept, you can ask me. I will start discussing, I will start explaining the decision-making models now. Okay, let's move on with the decision-making processes. I think it's a bit mentioned in chapter 5, but I don't think so. But let me check this. But anyway, I will check it later. But you need to check uploaded text for decision-making processes. Because as I say, for the other concept, for the leadership models, decision-making process is not explained very well in your textbook as I expected. That's why I have uploaded that text. You're supposed to check it. You're supposed to follow up that text. Okay? Let's start. Management is about making decisions. This is mostly accepted thing. We managers and everyone running that business, they are making decisions about strategy, organization structure, human resources, product services quality, productivity improvement, performance appraisals, responses to environment turbulence. Decision making process applies to every stage of this listed determinants, like listed parts like a strategy and organization structure. You can see decision making types differs from strategy to productivity improvement, but in every business model, in every management, especially in international business or in domestic business, in every business, people are making decisions about these processes, about these determinants of management. They make decisions, and there's some way of improving your decision-making process, having better results. We will talk about them today. First of all, let's identify the problems. We are making a decision just because we are having a problems. We are seeing a new situation. A situation might be a crisis, it might be non-crisis or opportunity. This situation, this problem. And managers or employees making decision within this circle: crisis, non-crisis, and opportunity. But let's see what is crisis problem. Is difficulty serious enough? When this problem happened, when this crisis problem happened, you will see that difficulty serious enough to need immediate action. This characteristic, the seriousness of a problem, makes it different than the others. Like, let's say, if a fire started in a factory, or if a leaking started in an oil company, that's a very serious problem, extreme serious problem. But non-crisis problem is like issue that needs resolution but doesn't have to have the importance and immediate case of crisis. It's not very immediate. You can solve it tomorrow. Let's say a staff had an argument with another staff. Yes, it's a problem, but non-crisis problem. You shouldn't ring the bell. You can say, okay, this happened. Let's look on what's the solution. An opportunity problem. A situation with potential organizational gain if the right actions are taken. Opportunity problem, actually third classification, but applies to crisis and non-crisis problem. From crisis problem, organization can gain. It can create a gain for the future crisis problem. They can take action. That's why it can be crisis plus opportunity problem, or non-crisis problem can turn to opportunity problem. And after solving that non-crisis problem, the company can say, yes, this is going to be procedure in the company. Let's say staff communication should be monitored by the manager under these circumstances. This is opportunity. The company had a gain. And we have three models. Basically, when we are making a decision, we are looking at these three models. In the literature, in the textbooks, there might be other models, but we are talking about now first rational decision making, second positive decision making model, and better decision making model. These three are concerned now. We are classifying the problems, we are classifying the style, the model, how we can make a decision, how we can improve it. And let me see, is that recording? Yes, recording. And the first model, rational model of decision making. Let's first look at it, what it is. It is multi-step process from problem identification through a solution. And we have some other steps in between this problem identification going through the solution. Why we are doing this? For making logically sound decisions. Because not every decision is logically sound. For example, when we have a crisis problem, we can make a decision which is irrational, which is not logical. That's why, in order to stop this, we have models to follow the steps to make sure that the decision made at the end of the problem is working. Decision maker needs to optimize or determine the best solution for the problem, because we can have tons of solutions, but which one is the best? In rational model, you should always keep in your mind, we are seeking the best solution, not good enough solution. And decisions are logically sound, uninfluenced by emotion or other non-rational factors. I mean, we should consider the risk about emotions. Like, if we are facing to bankruptcy and have to fire some of the staff, if we have to downsize the company, this decision might be influenced by emotion because it's a bit hard to fire your friend. And but rational model of decision making says us you should keep your emotion away from this decision process. And this is the steps. What steps saying us? These steps identify rational decision making model. What are these? Define the problem. First, we need to find a non-crisis, crisis, or opportunity problem. What's the problem? What kind of problem we are having? And identify key decision criteria based on the values. How we are making, what are the key decision criteria in this problem? Like, for example, how do you weigh all these key decision criteria on it? I will explain. And allocate relative weights to this criteria, like what is most important to solve this? Time, saving money, or environment? What are the key decision criteria? Or stakeholder rights? What are this? And give value to this. Say, thinking about, like, for example, we need to save time or we need to save money when we are making decision. Let's say this is 8 out of 10. And it goes on. You need to weight them. Determine the decision style. List solutions and develop any alternatives based on these criteria. Evaluate the alternatives. What can be done? And select the choice that maximizes utility based on the weighted criteria of all the feasible alternatives. Mobilizes resources, which means that tell everyone. Tell what is their duty on this problem solution. Problem identification stage is a problem arises when there's a discrepancy between the present situation and the optimal outcome. You are expecting something to happen, but it didn't happen. Present situation shows that there's a big gap and the ring bells. That's a problem. For example, you aim to achieve like a double sale figures at the end of, let's say, 6 months, and you're checking the figures at the in the 3rd month, and you see it's far away from the target. That's a problem. And the decision process is directed toward changing the root causes of difficulties so that the symptoms are reduced or eliminated. This should lead to the development of decision criteria by which the decision can be weighted. Okay? And choosing the best style. What is how we can choose the decision style? We have 2 decision styles in rational model of decision making. The first one, programmed. The second one, non-programmed. Programmed decision follows standard operating procedures. There is no need to explore alternative solutions because the optimal solution has already been identified and documented. For example, you are working in a call center and you have in the screen you can see the problems and the solution listed there. This is programmed. When you receive a call from a customer and it's very well-known problem, for the customer it can be crisis, but for you, you know the problem. And then you are picking the proper decision style from the programmed one and giving the solution to the customer. This is programmed. You are not putting any effort to remodel it. And many complex or abstract problems require non-programmed decision. In these cases, decision makers must search for alternatives and possibly craft a unique solution, custom-made solution, because you never seen this problem before. You were not expecting to see this problem, non-programmed. A list of solutions. First, we need to understand the key decision criteria. What's the important when we are making decisions? We weighted them. Yes, we say the time saving, cost saving, the saving, stakeholder rights, and the customer benefits and something. And then we start listing the solution based on these criteria. What are these? This usually begins with searching for ready-made, already proven solution to the existing problem. If an acceptance ready-made solution is unavailable, then custom-made solution is designed for an existing one is modified. And after we listed all the solutions. Yes, we can solve, let's say again, call center you're working and you have seen non-programmed problem, crisis problem. You list the alternative. Yeah, you can offer the customer to cancel their credit card or give them some bonus and something. You are listing them, not to lose the customer. This is the aim, to solve the problem. And then you need to choose the best alternative. What is this? In this model, what it says, the rational decision making model involves choosing the best alternative. You shouldn't be satisfied with the good enough alternative. You should list all the solutions until you get the best alternative. And which is not always possible, but when you say, okay, I found 100 different solutions and this is the best alternative out of 100, yes, that's all right. And the main selection criteria is identified, ranked by importance, and given a weighted rating for 1 to 10 score or some other scale. Each alternative's total value is calculated from the ratings and criteria weights. Each alternative's total value is calculated from the ratings and criteria weights, and then you say, okay, I obtained, based on this criteria, like a 9 out of 10 in total, let's say. Yes, this is the best alternative. And mobilize resources. Decision makers must meet the employees and prepare sufficient resources to make and implement the decision. They should, allocate. They should announce the decision. Like they can send email, they can get a meeting to tell them what's the solution. And firms must consider the motivation, ability, role perceptions of employees implementing the solution. Not every employee will accept the solution because you, as a leader, as a manager, you should be able to understand how the role perception of each employee, how they can have their role in that particular solution. You should be able to know it. And problems with rational decision model. Again, we are still in the rational decision model. Insufficient in describing people's behavior under many conditions. When you introduce, we are still talking about this. We are talking about the problems, what can happen in the rational decision model, because this model is not all the, among all the models, rational model is not the best model, as the other models are not the best. In this theories, we cannot say this is the best model to use. No, but there are some problems. What are these? The first one, insufficient in describing people's behavior under many conditions. Well, people's behavior cannot always be very obvious and clear to understand. That's why at some stage, if we are facing a problem and if we are having insufficiencies to describe the people's behavior against the problem, then yeah, this creates another big problem when we find a solution for that particular problem. And when you introduce additional variables such as cross-cultural interaction within an international setting, additional contingency arise that the rational model cannot address. Like, for example, you are trying to mobilize that solution to the group, but if you are having a kind of communication problem or cultural conflicts, rational model doesn't work at this stage. You need to be much more flexible or finding another model. Or while listing your solutions, maybe you are confined to your cognitive process and maybe you are ignoring some solutions instinctively, then this is another problem in this model. And another model under rational model, another approach, normative model of decision making. Decision making using a rational model, it says how things ought to be. In rational model, we can sometimes call it normative. We are thinking how things ought to be. And positive model of decision making, what we are thinking, how people actually behave. Actual day-to-day decision making model, and not idealized, not put in a very, very restricted format. Positive model makes difference from rational model or normative model. Let's see positive model after giving brief introduction. In positive model of decision making, what we say in the rational model, we are trying to choose the best alternative. But positive model of decision, it's a bit different. And in this model, rational model, it argues that there are programmed and non-programmed decisions as I explained in rational model. This is same. In program decision, impact of bounded rationality is limited, while the impact is great as making non-program decisions. What we say your cognitive process, because you as a person has a bounded rationality, and in a non-program decision you are suffering from it. Maybe you are limiting the solutions, not knowingly, not intentionally, but your bounded rationality limits it. And in non-program decisions, the decision-making procedure is based on the values, beliefs, attitudes, and behavioral patterns. What it is, in non-program decisions, more or less, throughout the decision-making procedure, I'm putting my background, I'm putting my beliefs, values, because it comes naturally. That's why, in positive model of decision-making, program decision is less impacted by bounded rationality. But and in the other one, the non-programmed, it has a greatest impact of bounded rationality. Most firms will have a mixture of both programmed and non-programmed decisions. Every company is facing different problems, crisis, non-crisis, and through programmed and non-programmed decision models, they apply it. And in positive models, by the way, in positive models, appropriate decision style we are trying to focus on first, and then list of solutions. Again, similar ways we are following a positive model. But in positive model of decision making, what is different? The approach is getting more flexible in positive model. It's not very strict as it happened in rational model. Again, we have list of solutions. Like the key to generating such solutions is gathering relevant information. Psychologist Carl Jung suggested two primary modes of gathering information: sensing and intuition. Sensors rely on facts and empirical evidence and are often more inductive. And intuitive people rely more heavily on image, emotion, and logic, and more often deductive. When we are listing the solutions, we have to impact sensor and intuitive. And in providing potential solutions, like bounded rational decision makers engage in satisficing. Satisficing, what we are saying, alternatives that are acceptable or good enough rather than the best possible solution. Satisficing happens because it is difficult to identify all the possible alternatives and because information about available alternatives is imperfect and ambiguous. What it says, in this model, we are happy with good enough solution. We are not searching the best one. We are not weighing all the options. We are saying, yes, this solution is good enough. Let's go for it. And different societies vary in how they process information. That's again cultural impact in positive model of decision. And choosing the best alternative among good enough solutions as well. Don't confuse about this, because we are choosing the best alternative among good enough solutions. The manager relies on evidence-based information search or verdict-based information search for decision making. In this model, we have two types: evidence-based or verdict-based. What is evidence-based information? A process of information search and decision making that does not start with a presumed decision and seeks to evaluate a range of evidence, challenge the emerging solution as it is gradually shaped. If a person is relied on evidence-based information search, and if this person is following the positive model of decision making model along with evidence-based, they are not making decision based on their instinct. They are looking at the evidence from every perspective as much as they can collect. They are not having a presumed decision. They are not saying, I presume that this is not going to happen in the future. They are not doing this. They are saying, this can happen, let's have a look all the evidences and then make a decision. But verdict-based information search and then verdict-based decision-making processes, and a process information search and decision-making that starts with presumed answers to the decision and proceeds to only seek out the information that confirms the initial verdict or decision. we have a decision in the beginning and then we see a problem, but again we start a verdict-based information search, but we are still sticking with the first initial verdict or initial decision. We are not looking for every evidence for that problem. But this doesn't work all the time. This doesn't clear all the other alternative options and eventually horrible events. In this example, we will see that Columbia Space Shuttle, they had a verdict-based information process. They run their problem process through a verdict-based information. On February 1st of 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated upon re-entering Earth's atmosphere, killing all 7 crew members. What was the problem? They found out the problem: foam insulation debris hit the shuttle and created a hole in the left wing. When they started investigation, and as a result, all crew died. That's the extremely crisis problem. And then they started investigation to understand from which, when they are, assembling the space shuttle, if any management level or if any engineer found out or reported this kind of problem, they tried to investigate it. And they found a managerial decision problem there, because how they run the managerial decision stage with the verdict-based information, they had a presumed approach when a problem happened. In this example, top managers of the mission management team ignored requests from lower-level engineering staff. The manager could not believe that the foam could have caused any damage. They refused to consider investigating the problem. In this case, lower-level manager reported a problem, not crisis problem, but it's important. And then after they reported the top managers of the mission management team, what the mission management team looked for: verdict-based information. They presumed this foam could not have any damage in the space shuttle. And then what happened? Created a problem. If they changed their approach, if they thought evidence-based information, they might test it. They might test the foam problem from different angles, from different approaches. They might have end up in their testing environment. They might have end up with this explosion problem. And then they would say, yes, that's a big problem, let's fix it. But they didn't say. They presumed. And finally, all crew died. And then, after discussing positive model and rational model, what it says, think about all the alternatives, focus on very wide options and weight them and choose the best alternative. Positive model is a bit flexible. It might based on verdict-based information or evidence-based information. In this model, we can choose good enough solution. Still, we are listing the solution. We are considering to decide what kind of decision style we are going to have it in the solution process, deciding process. But positive model a bit flexible. Good enough solutions are listed. But finally, we might have this kind of problem. That's why what we say in a positive model decision-making process, if a manager is focused on, rather than verdict-based, if they focus on evidence-based information processes, it might result better. It might create a positive or long-term solution or less risky solution for this kind of situations. But we have another system to decide, to make a decision, which is better decision-making besides rational and positive models. Better decision-making system is more focusing on scenario-based, what-if questions we will see here. First, early warning system. In this system, a manager can identify in advance any critical issues that could potentially confront the firm. They are having scenarios. They are saying, this might happen, this is risky, fire can happen, let's have our early warning system. And the firm can then institute an early warning system to identify a problem if it starts to occur. And such warning thresholds can be derived from past experience or from preset goals for major stakeholders like customers, shareholders, employees, and so forth. In this system, we are trying to guess the problem. What can happen? I'm selling, let's say, mobile phone. What most likely can happen? I'm identifying the problem. And what is the best solution for this problem? I'm identifying this. And then when the problem starts, I know my answer. You can think like, I'm trying to develop the program decision within early warning system. And systems for systematic evaluation. Firms can create processes to ensure systematic evaluation of certain critical information and key forecasts. This process tends to minimize satisfying limitation in the decision process. It also aids information processing. This is again so similar to early warning system, but this is more about evaluation. And I'm trying to develop key forecasts. Let's say financially, I'm making my evaluation, my budget evaluation. I'm trying to create a system to I'm creating system checkpoints, sorry. And then I'm inserting critical information. Like, let's say I'm saying if my loan exceed that certain amount, that's the checkpoint for me, and I will see what's happening inside. If this might happen because of the low investment return or because of unexpected expenses. What's happening? I'm trying to develop my systematic evaluation and get ready for the problems, get ready for the preparing all this solution in advance. And decision support structures. In a better decision making, we have another decision support structures system. Computer-based programs that guide people through the decision making processes. Like I gave you example, call centers, I put it here as well. This helps employees identify problems systematically and search ready-made solutions without the need to evaluate alternatives. This is for especially time saving, for call centers especially. This is a lot time saving and they're benefiting from decision support structures and making a lot of scenarios background and finding the problem solution matches. And scenario planning explores potential problems and opportunities and asks firms to think about difficult circumstances and competitive challenges. In this scenario planning, the perspective is very broad and can include any problem can happen in a competitive challenge, like new threats, market threats, product sale drop, everything. And scenario planning is quite wide. They are including almost all the stuff in it, and they're taking their ideas. An advantage being the importance of one or two key criteria can be clearly identified and properly deal with. And heuristic and biases. What is this? When we are making a decision, although we are all the time aiming for the best, although we are applying, decision making and then positive decision making, rational models we are applying, or better decision making models we are applying, there are some problems, concerns in decision making process because we are human. We can put our emotions, we can put our heuristic and biases. Let's explain what are these. Heuristics simply the decision-making process by providing certain types of mental shortcuts that decision makers can use to make decisions more quickly. I'll just put one single break here. I'm coming. Sorry guys, I'm back. And let's look at the problems when we are making a decision. Heuristic and bias, as I explained, I read the definition like, what's the heuristic? It's simply a decision-making process by providing certain types of mental shortcuts that decision makers can use to make decisions more quickly. Heuristic create unperceived bias in decision while making the decisions, and it can create problems. Prospect theory examines risk assessment, loss aversion, and dependence on a reference or starting point. The theory explains why individuals consistently behave in ways different from what traditional economic and decision theory would predict. Although decision heuristic or shortcuts can be helpful to us, they are not always banning. What is that? We're saying this is a shortcut to make a decision, saving time. We can go for it. It looks very rational, but it might be always rational, it might be irrational. Because what we are doing, we are getting our own, we are making decision by ourselves and increase the heuristic and bias in a particular case. As a result, we can get unexpected result, unexpected negative outcomes from our decision making. Although we are trying to solve the problem through the shortcuts, we can face with unsolved problems. And how we can reduce the impact of heuristic and bias, because it's a human thing. Although we are thinking to decrease the impact of heuristic bias by ourselves, which is not always possible because it's in ourselves. That's why when we are making decisions, there are some ways to reduce this impact. Always view a problem from different perspective. When you're making a decision and listing your solutions, you can ask, you can try to turn the case all the way around and try to consider different perspectives, like you're thinking from your perspective and think about the other party's perspective. This is one solution. And think about the problem on your own before consulting others. You can think loudly, you can write it, you can develop your own way. Like, for example, after you made a decision, after 2 days or 3 days, you can think about your solution again. Is that still valid? And seek information from other people to widen frame of reference and get fresh directions. Always try to simply explain the problem, your solution for a specific problem to other people, and then try to listen what can be added on, what can be more feasible, or is that the way you found it best way, or maybe there is another direction. And do not reveal much about your own ideas, estimates, and tentative decisions. When you're discussing with other people, directly ask their opinion. Don't give background a lot, or don't start explaining your solution a lot, because when you start doing this, the other person can also thinking bounded rationality and thinking that yes, this is the best option you are giving. No, this is not what you're trying to do, because you're thinking your decision carry heuristic and bias. That's why you're trying to limit yourself, and that's why you're trying to get another person's idea. That's why what you can do is simply ask the solution. Let's see what's gonna come up. And the other problem in making decisions, escalation of commitment. What it is? The tendency to repeat an apparently bad decision or allocate more resources to a failing course of action. This is also called Concord fallacy, or sunk cost trap, making a decision in order to justify past choices. This is like you made a decision, you decided to go to another market. Let's say in our assignment 2 example, from UK, Breedol decided to go to China, and then crisis started. They lost. Everyone stuck there, and they couldn't make profit. A manager can make another decision to go to another destination, or there are lots of solutions to come over this problem. They can hold the investment in China and wait until the crisis finishes, or they can shut down and they can have a sunk cost from that investment, and they can forget about China. They can go to another destination like Canada. These are all these are all decision making to solve that problem. But as a manager, if you're only focusing on to get more profit and cover all the losses from China, you might make a wrong decision, because you might do another wrong decision without thinking about all possible solutions and alternative. You can make a very we can use a shortcut to make a decision, as I explained in heuristic and bias. That's why escalation of commitment is another risk when we are listing under the current concerns. As I explained in heuristic and bias, you need to consider alternatives very carefully, alternative ideas, alternative direction. You need to not to focus on to get rid of that or that's loss, or you shouldn't just only focusing on to start making profit. Okay. And causes of escalating commitment, like people want to create self-justification for their actions. Like, okay, I made this decision, this is end up very, horrible loss for the company. But if you are still trying to back up your decision with self-justification, this is not correct. Accept the mistake and move on. And decision makers commit the gambler's fallacy. What we say, when you start gambling, you are losing, just to keep your hope to win at some point. But gambler's fallacy, like, you will lose it if you keep doing that wrong mistake. If you keep doing that, getting in the pathway of the wrong decision, whereby they underestimate the risk and overestimate their probability of success. When you're making the decision as a manager, you should put everything in the table, all the risks, all the reason why you can be unsuccessful. In your assignment too, when you're writing good side, the profitable side of the choosing country, you should also mention about what are the risks. Or in some essays I have seen, they all talk about the risk. Okay, there's another, besides risk, is there any advantages in the market or not? You should be able to see disadvantages and advantages from a very clear point of view, and then you can make a clear decision. And the information necessary to pinpoint and define major problems is downplayed. That's why escalating commitment happens. So the problems are ignored and remain unsolved. And overcoming escalating commitment problems. How can we overcome it? Separate decision choosers from decision evaluators. Like, you made it, you created the list, you created the solutions, everything, but decision choosers should be different. You can separate them, because in order to stop gambling fallacy, decision choosers and evaluators should be different. Publicly establish a present threshold. Avoid creating a failure-fearing culture that leads employees to perpetuate their mistake. Like in the companies, some companies, they get afraid of making a mistake. I know one case study from Virgin Airlines. Their manager made a mistake, and then the owner says, doesn't matter, it's just a mistake and happen. It's the financial loss, yes, but keep working, kind of. In an organization, if the environment, if the culture is not judging you when you're doing a mistake, you should be more free. But if they are judging you with your mistake and humiliating you, then escalating commitment can happen. And the other thing, recognize that sources of escalation of commitment has deep psychological roots in the desire to protect egos or prove to others that one is correct. That's a big problem. Nowadays, companies doing a lot of psychological tests to understand the person's tendency to go for wrong decisions or going for escalating commitment problems. Companies are doing massive researches on before employing someone, because this is the biggest problem, to protect your ego, not accepting the mistake, and not accepting to say loudly, yes, I did a wrong decision, I chose the wrong options, and move on. And in rewarding people, look at the quality of decision making and decision process, taking into account what was known at the time decisions were made, not just the quality of the outcomes. That's important. Look at what he or she had in their hand during the time of decision. Sometimes information is limited. Sometimes we don't have enough data. That's why we are making wrong decision. But in decision-making processes, the important thing, like for the manager, for the executives, understanding the environment and facing with the facts in the environment, in the market, and then correct decision can come after. I think that's it now. And how we evaluate the decision making in international business. Couple notes after this, it's gonna finish. And most often, decision makers resort to perceptual distortion, like known as post hoc justification, to maintain a positive self identity. Like post hoc justification gives decision makers an excessively optimistic evaluation of their decision because they believe in their decision, they defend it until they receive clear and undeniable information to the contrary. Like every manager can get excited, or every executive can get excited about the market expansion. They can feel that, yes, I did this. I'm the one who's running all the process. I'm the one who's very successful. They can look from the optimistic side, but while before making that kind of successful moves, or before making this kind of expansion, before making sure about the success of the move, you should consider all the facts and what can happen, what are the risks. Post-decisional justification also inflates the decision maker's initial evaluation of the decision. The primary element in effective team is cognitive diversity, which is the ability of members of the group to think differently and to express their opinions and findings, which is very important. To get more voices in one plan, one project is very important because it happens to everyone, sticking with one point of view and then making all the evaluation based on this decision and not seeing beyond that decision is a risk. That's why the team cognitive diversity is very important. And culture and decision making is another process. I'm not gonna go in so deep because as I say in leadership models as well, culture is everywhere. You can feel it in every decision making process. Like some of them are very quick, especially when you look at the Mediterranean culture. Like people coming from Mediterranean countries, they're so quick they're making decisions. They're always using the shortcuts for even important decisions. But when you're looking a bit more Asian cultures, they're thinking every aspect of the problems and they're trying to think carefully. This is the cultural characteristic. You can feel it, you can see this. Like some cultures emphasize solving problems while others focus on accepting situation as they are. That's one risk. And situation accepting managers believe that they neither can nor should alter every situation that confronts them. That's one of the problems in management. They can say, yeah, this problem happens, let's accept and move it. They are not trying to turning all the way around and trying to solve it. And problem-solving managers believe they can and should change situation to their own benefit. This is one of the cultural impacts. And based on culture's view of the relationship among people, either individuals or groups will hold primary decision-making responsibility. In traditional collective cultures, which is of the senior people are respected, whereas in Anglo-American context, individual choices are more recognized and expected. This list can go on, and there are a lot of examples we can list here. Nowadays, especially, like all the culture clashes happens around us. The world is global, and we can see all different nationalities under one company. But what is the best thing here? As it said here, who's making the decision that matters, and how using the resources, including advantages and disadvantages, how allocating this decision, how applying this methods. If we are following a very well-shaped, very well outlined procedure when we are making a decision on crisis and non-crisis problem, which can make it more smoother for all the culture and whoever making the decision, the manager or leader. If a person is trying to avoid the cultural impact, minimize it, then it's better to apply this model, one of this model. Yep, this is about decision-making processes. We have just a theory model here, which is widely accepted and applied. If you have any question again, you can ask me anytime. Okay, thank you.